of people think about ATVs, they typically think about spring, summer, and fall. And those, yes, are some of my favorite times to ride as well. But something that is kind of trending lately, and obviously because it's winter, is snow wheeling. And that's taking your machine, grabbing your friends, and hitting the trails in the middle of winter. And thankfully, we have some opportunities to do that in my area, where we decided to take advantage of a weekend, get the guys together, rent a cabin, and hit the trails for some snow wheeling of our own. Our adventure took place in a small town called Chisolm, Minnesota, which is near Hibbing, and it is in the Iron Range. And there are some cool trails to explore up there, not just in the summer, but also in the winter too. This event was put on by Northern Tracks ATV Club and was open to their members, and they also invited members of neighboring ATV clubs and ATV Minnesota Association. It was really cool to see a lot of people come together that are all members of various clubs, supporting the sport, doing good for the cause, and coming together to have a good time. For those of you guys that are tuning in, this is a new channel, and I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. This is a new venture for me, not just in the shop, but out on the trails, and I'm trying to grow this, and your subscribe would really mean a lot to me. We wanted to set out and put on a lot of miles in our day and a half that we had. We rode all day Saturday and some of Sunday morning, and we had an amazing time. Our group consisted of side-by-sides as well as four-wheelers, and I'll talk in this video about things I learned with the old Honda Talon in the snow, and kind of show you some of the adventure along the way, because we rode all day and into the night, and then we went back and rode the next morning as well for a short little mini adventure, which was pretty cool too. One of the things I will say about snow wheeling is obviously you have to dress for the weather. I was very fortunate that I had a diesel heater in my machine. This was my first trip that I really kind of put this diesel heater to the test. I will be having an upcoming video talking about how I set up the H-Calorie Toolbox 2 diesel heater, but I have to say, sneak peek is the thing worked really good. I had it piped into the soft enclosure cab. I kind of convert my Talon over to like a winter mode where I put the factory doors and the soft uppers on, and that's kind of how I ride it all winter. And then with the diesel heater, it was very comfortable, and I've been riding a few times this winter, and I've noticed that that diesel heater does a great job of keeping things comfortable. Now, it's not necessarily going to be like super warm because it still might be 10 degrees or 0 or whatever, and thankfully on this big trip, we had great weather. It started out in the 20s, the weather crept up to about the 30s, and then when the sun went down, it crept back down into about the 20s, but we just had an amazing time. We hit the trails, and one of the first things we had to do was check out a local play area, and of course, one of the machines got stuck trying to climb up a hill. And this is why it is so important when you do go out in the snow is to pack the appropriate recovery gear. This one we were able to recover with just the machine's winch, a tree saver, and a soft shackle. It definitely could have turned into something else where we might have needed a recovery rope or a tow strap or something like that, or maybe another winch. So whenever you go out, always make sure that you have the appropriate recovery gear, because the snow gets deep really quick. Like in some of those drifts, it was easily 2 feet deep, and trying to go through that with your all-purpose tire can definitely make for a challenge. So the gear that I use is Yankum. I'm not trying to make this a sponsored piece because it's not, but if you do want to get some recovery gear that I think is some of the best in the business, I will have a link and a coupon code below. But I carry a Yankum rope, recovery rope. I carry a tow strap, a tree saver, soft shackles. I carry all that stuff in my machine at all times because you never know when you might need it. Additionally, I always carry first aid gear, communication gear. We had pretty good cell phone coverage, and then how we were talking to each other was either through Rocky-Talkie action radios. I had some of those, and some of the other guys had some other GMRS radios, but the Rocky-Talkie worked pretty good for like car-to-car for those who didn't have Cardo headsets. And then a few of us in the group also had the Cardo headsets, which is obviously my favorite way, just because I'm able to enjoy the ride more. I'm able to listen to my music. I'm able to get notifications from my phone, stay in touch with home stuff if something were to come up, as well as have really good audio communication from car to car. So again, I have links to all that stuff below, but those are some of my favorite riding gears that just make the overall ride more enjoyable. Now, things that I learned about snow riding or snow wheeling in the Talon is that this is the time that the four-wheel drive delete actually came in pretty handy. There was a couple of times when I was going through some unplowed areas of a forest road, trying to get to a certain spot going through a drift, and I noticed that the i4 wheel drive was slowing things down a little bit. So as soon as I hit that override button, I was able to basically keep up the momentum that I needed to get through that, because anybody who's driven in Minnesota knows that sometimes the name of the game when it comes to getting through the snow is just momentum. You got to keep that vehicle in motion to keep cutting through that snow. So the i4 wheel drive delete from Hess did actually work out really well for a couple of those situations. A lot of the trails that we went on were very well maintained by the club, so they were out there plowing and clearing area, so you're able to make really good distance. You're able to see a lot of cool scenery, and basically just spending some time in the snow painted woods is quite beautiful on its own, and just being able to get outside and do something in the winter and put some miles on makes for a much better way to pass the time. However, some of the other trails that we found were basically unmaintained forest roads that were pretty much untraveled all winter. You could tell somebody has been through there, but with the recent snow that we have gotten in the area, we had about 1.5 feet in some spots of snow that was pretty much fresh that we had to cut through. Now the four-wheelers in the group, they had a lot of fun. They were able to, with their smaller and more nimble machines, they were able to cut through. And Blake, who's one of the riders in our group, that guy, like, he only has one speed and it seems like it's all out. So whenever Blake would lead the way, he would always cut us a trail, or we would be trying to catch up or keep up to him. But then the rest of us basically put it in four-wheel drive and let it go, and no machine really got stuck in the snow, which was great. And as far as tires, pretty much all of us had either an all-purpose tire, a couple of people had paddle tires, but pretty much everything worked out. Obviously the big lug paddle tires did work better in the snow, but so long as you didn't bite off more than you can chew and drive into areas that you shouldn't, we all did just fine making through our area. Obviously a little bit more snow would have proved to be a little bit more of a challenge. Now in the beginning of the ride, one of the things that I did, I'm running BF Goodrich KM3s, and I think they're overall a pretty good tire all around. They're maybe not necessarily super the best at any one thing, but overall they do things really, really great. And one of the things that I did right away was I aired down. I have System 3 beadlock wheels, so I was able to air down to, I want to say like 7 or 8 psi, and that allowed the tire to get a lot more traction in some of like that snow and ice and things like that. Now of course we had to stop for lunch at one of the local watering holes, but one of the other cool things is they had this little oval track set up on the lake, and they basically had a plowed ice oval that we could kind of go do a few laps around. So I didn't get a ton of footage there, but I gotta say I definitely took the Talon out for a few laps, and kind of getting it drifting around the corners was a good time. In worst case, you'd either spin out or hit a snowbank, so it was a pretty high reward, low risk environment to kind of practice some of your winter driving ability. And it also really kind of made me appreciate more of the i4 wheel drive, of just kind of being able to power through when I wanted to and have the steering, be still really good. On the Pioneer that had the traditional four-wheel drive, if I had that in four-wheel lock, it was much more difficult to steer. Whereas with the i4 wheel drive, maintaining that basically same sense of power steering was no issue at all. And even the i4 wheel drive, I ran i4 wheel drive the majority of the day, even on some of the trails, just to get that better control. And steering through some of the tighter areas, things like that, I definitely didn't notice any strain or additional difficulty with the power steering with the i4 wheel drive. So I thought the system overall performed really good, except for those other times when I talked about earlier where I did have to do the override just to kind of help that momentum from the system kind of bogging things down a little bit. But overall, I was pretty impressed with that i4 wheel drive. There was even times that I forgot I was in i4 wheel drive, and usually you can kind of tell when the machine is, but the machine did a really good job of transitioning from when it needed to be locked, when it didn't, and I thought the system overall worked really good. Now, sometimes we did have to make a connection, so we were able to use county roads or gravel roads or things like that, and in those times I would just put it in two-wheel drive and ride normal. But overall, I thought the Talon performed really good in the snow, and I didn't have to worry about like belt temperatures heating up or anything like that. But none of the other machines in our group had any issues either, and we had some Polaris, some CF Motos, I believe there was a Can-Am, we had a couple of Talons, but no machine had any issues, which was great. So all of the machines held up really well, and we put on well over 100 miles in our day-and-a-half adventure. One of the other things that I really give Rod, our ride leader, credit for is planning our route. Not only did he have a great route planned with some exploration area that wasn't really mapped, areas that if we made enough time and made enough miles we could get to and kind of explore, but everybody knew what the route was going to be. We all used Polaris Ride Command. Some of the machines had the built-in module. I had Ride Command on my phone and I was using that to navigate, but we all kind of knew the route. We all kind of knew where we would be stopping. We all had our brakes planned out, so that way you could get get gas, you could get a snack, if you needed to warm up, or if we just needed kind of a meeting point. Because there was one point where we found a difficult area of the trail where the four-wheelers were able to continue, but the side-by-sides had to basically kind of make a detour, and we knew where we were going to meet up. So if you don't have a route planned when you're snow wheeling, I highly encourage you to do that. And there's tons of different apps and mapping solutions out there. In Minnesota, a lot of people use Ride Command. I like the features of Ride Command because it has the group ride function where you can track where other people are on the map. You can kind of plan your route ahead of time on the computer and then have that sync to your phone. You can share that route. But obviously there's other solutions out there that do similar things. Know your route, know where you're going, and ideally have a way to communicate with people in case part of your ride crew does get separated, or what if somebody breaks down? Obviously in some tight technical terrain, it doesn't take a lot of time to have a significant area of separation between you and the person behind you that might have broken down. So we want to make sure that you're establishing those safe riding procedures, and communication stuff is always something that you should be considering. I don't know where all you guys are located, but if you have the opportunity to get out and hit the trails in the winter, obviously be respectful. Stay off snowmobile trails, stay off groomed trails. If there are shared use trails, make sure that you're being courteous, make sure that you're yielding the right of way to those who have the right of way and we're not causing any damage, because the quickest way to get any trail closed is to damage it and be disrespectful, and that's how trails get shut down, and that's the last thing anybody in this sport truly wants. There are some bad apples out there who sadly do dumb things to kind of give the sport a bad name, but I think a lot of people who really respect and appreciate the sport understand that we all have to be good ambassadors of our sport. So make sure you're checking that, make sure you're checking the routes that you're on, the typical areas and resources that you might have to make sure that you're being good with that. Some of the other content I have planned for the future is kind of like what I bring with me in my side-by-side at all times, what I have always in the machine as far as gear and tools and things like that. So if that would be helpful, leave a comment below, let me know what you think, or if you have any like requests or questions or ideas, I would be all open to hear those. This is a relatively new channel, so again, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, as we are going to be having some more off-road tool content, gear content kind of coming out, and some of the stuff will be in the shop, some of it will be on the trails, but it's going to be content that I think you would enjoy. If you like, you know, doing outdoor off-road stuff, this is going to probably be applicable content, so hit that subscribe button. All right, dudes, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I really appreciate it. Let me know down below if you snow wheel, if you like it, or maybe you switch to a snow machine or snowmobile. Either way, let's have a good conversation, and I hope to see you out on the trails. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.